So equations for vertical and horizontal lines. We know that the general form for equation is y equals mx plus b, where this is the slope and this is the y-intercept. But how do we describe a line that goes vertically through -1 or horizontally through 3, for example? So let's use Desmos.com to see how this works. So on Desmos.com, you can actually type y equals mx plus b, and you have a choice to create sliders. What are sliders? Basically something that I can actually change the value of the equation. So that's y is equal to 1x plus 0. So my b is 0. And I notice that if I make my m higher, my line gets steeper. If I make my line, my m0, it's horizontal. That makes sense because the rise is 0, the run could be anything. And if I make it negative, the line slopes downward to the right. So you can actually also play a little kind of like a movie, and you can see what happens to any function that you may type on Desmos, but in this case, y is equal to mx plus b. Great. So if I want a horizontal line through, let's say 4, looks like I need to make this go up to 4. So 0x will take this away. Well, so that means that if I just type y is equal to, let's say 3, I will get a horizontal line through 3, and that makes sense. With this slider, I can just change around and see that, yeah, if I go -3, horizontal line through -3, etc., etc. This makes perfect sense, right? Because that means that it's horizontal, so the rise over run is 0 over something. My slope is 0, it takes out the mx part, and I'm left with the y-intercept. It also makes sense, because if I see all these points, what do they have in common? See, the y value is always 2. The y value is always 2. This line is called y is equal to 2. If we go back to the example, what would this line be called? Well, it's going to be called y is equal to 3. And that makes sense. What about the vertical line? Well, the vertical line has a slope that is undefined, because the rise could be any number or infinity, but the run is 0, and I cannot divide by 0. So we will be calling this line x equals and then a number. So let me just try with 4, and I use my slider to see that if I have x is equal to something, I'll just move it around, and that's the value where it's going to cross the x-axis. And also, if you notice my points, the common thing about all the points along this line is that the x value would always be -3. And so therefore, we will call this line right here that crosses through the -1, it's going to be called x is equal to -1.